And welcome back to Who Would Win? Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Joestar, Johnny Joestar, who asked the question, who won a fight, Spider-Man Peter Parker or Joseph Joestar? Let's just go over Spider-Man Peter Parker really quick. Spider-Man Peter Parker, 16, I think he was like 15, 16, was bit by a radioactive spider, gained the powers of a spider, and he can do whatever a spider can, minus shooting webs out of his butt. But that being said, he created the ability to create webs. Spider-Man is a very powerful character. He's not a world ender. He's not someone who can actually stop someone like the Juggernaut or the Hulk or Thor if he really tried, if he went all out. He could slow them down, and he has fought both of them on several occasions and slowed them down a little bit, but he can't actually outright beat those characters. That being said, he has beaten characters like Iron Man before, like Cap. He has beaten them, the context of which is a little... they're writing a Spider-Man story, so it makes sense. But still, he's got strength that allows him to lift tens of tons in excess. He's fast, although he's not a speedster. He's much faster than you might think, easily beyond like Olympic level. He's created his webbing that allows him to produce webbing of various degrees and styles and abilities, from bullets to webs, to nets, to gliders even. He can create them. Usually it lasts about an hour or two and then they dissolve. Spider-Man obviously is famous for climbing on walls. What it is actually he's kind of like, I believe he's changing the magnetic polarity of his fingers so it allows him to adhere to the wall, is what he's doing. And obviously he's famous for his spider sense, which is an omnidirectional extrasensory perception system, a warning system that allows him to just perceive any incoming danger to him and react to it. But he does have to react to it. Luckily, his reaction time is pretty solid, so there you go. Because of the spider sense, he is a master in what is known as spider fu, reacting, dodging, and hitting. He is also a scientific genius. Spider-Man is insanely intelligent. He's not a battle tactician necessarily, but he doesn't have to be. So, with that said, Joseph Joestar was the second protagonist of the JoJo series, after Jonathan Joestar, as the grandson of Jonathan Joestar. Yeah, he appears as a primary ally to Stardust Crusaders, and a secondary ally in Diamond is Unbreakable. We will look at him mostly in his prime, though, that's the image I have here. He's the grandson of Jonathan Joestar, is a natural born Ripple user, an eventual stand user, wielding the psychic photographic stand Hermit Purple, an exuberant troublemaker with exceptional talent for trickery. He meets the fantastic threats such as Pillar Man, Malevolent Stain users, and vampires. So yeah. By the way, I don't watch JoJo, but I have seen bits and pieces. If I were to say which design I ultimately like the best, it is probably Stardust Crusaders. At 68, he was still pretty much in peak condition, arguably. That being said, his battle tonight, he's a very young, high-headed, impetuous, and a confrontational man in his early years. He does mellow out a little bit, but he still has a placeable personality throughout the entirety of the series. Stardust Crusaders, though, is when he considerably mellowed out. He lost much of his aggression and laziness. He's still otherwise a nice, a very confident and jovial guy. And then Diamond is Unbreakable. He is advancing his weakened his mind and appears to have become somewhat senile. He's now a pacified, even weak-willed man. Sadly accepting Josku demands that he not interact with Josku's mother. Despite that, he's still a well-meaning old man who is willing to risk his life for others. That said, his main abilities come from his stand and his ripple. And granted, he's physically strong, so he can definitely physically brawl. But his main abilities are the Ripple, which inherited the Ripple, and is capable and his capabilities from his grandfather. Now, the Ripple is an energy used as an ancient form of martial arts. Through self-control, a person gained the Ripple technique and produce an energy identical to the energy of the sun, basically, is what they're doing. They're essentially producing sun energy, which is why the Ripple is dangerous as hell against vampires. Because you're essentially creating sunlight that would burn them to hell. Now, through the Ripple, he has numerous, besides in general physical enhancement, which I believe the Ripple can imbue. Come on, man, this site's being difficult. He is, besides that, he's able to combine his Ripple with his stand, Hermit Purple. He neglected his Ripple training, though, as he got older, which is why we're looking at him as his youngest stage. His attacks during his battle with the Pillar Man, he demonstrated several abilities. One of them including Overdrive, Ripple Overdrive. The most basic application of Ripple is where the user attacks with either of their limbs or an object imbued with the Ripple. And he first used a bottle of Coke, causing the cap to fly off and break the finger bone of a police officer. Now, that's a bottle cap. Imagine what he could do if he actually struck you, or had a stick in his hand or something like that. Now, Joestar's duel against cars, he uses it against cars and shatters cars' light blade, which can cut through anything without fail up until that point, that's very impressive too. He can use a type of hypnosis called Ripple Hypnosis. When he's young, he uses the Ripple on a pilot's head while Speedwagon's plane is being hijacked, which knocked out the pilot. He later uses this on a pigeon, controlling it to go inside the mouth of a woman that sees her hypnotized, and he's able to control vampire horses using the Ripple of the reins. Ripple hair is essentially he can infuse the Ripple into strands of hair, not even his own, to essentially make a shield, more or less. He can use it to even block incoming bullets. He's got Ripple Beat, which in essence is more a kind of an adhesive. It basically allows him to adhere to surfaces, like Spider-Man's wall crawling. Ripple Beat Overdrive. He traps the opponents with ropes made of 100% wool and imbues the ropes with the Ripple. It has enough force to slice through character Eladice's face, which just slicing through a human's face is effed up, but okay. That's wool. And then Rebuff Overdrive. He charges Ripple into his elbows and delivers a powerful strike. This was used in Justice fight with Wamu to retaliate his falling attack. And there's also one called Zoom Punch, similar to his grandfather's move. He uses the Ripple to dislocate his shoulder and strike the opponent from long range. He also wields American Clackers. Now, an American set of Clackers are, in essence, if you don't know what a Clacker is, essentially it's two balls on a rope. That really is it. In fact, if anything, they're kind of similar to bolas, as they might be. But essentially, what they normally do is they're just clackers. They clack and they make a sound. Here, though, he infuses them with the Ripple to use as a weapon. Using the attack Cracker Volley, he can he chucks the clackers infused Ripple into his opponent's direction. This can be done a number of ways, but to produce the best effect and most surprising, he can hide them behind his back. From there, he can slingshot them from behind his back at the enemy in all directions. And there's Clacker Boomerang, which, as it sounds, is a boomerang. Other equipment he has usually with him, he uses Ripple to pop off the cap of a Coke bottle. We saw that, or talked about that. He uses a Tommy gun to shoot a character known as Strazos, and then strike him with his stock with Ripple. He was then followed circularly attaching a grenade to his scarf. Theoretically, he should be able to do that. The wall, he wielded a large hammer in a chariot race with Wamu. And then his stand, Hermit Purple, manifests itself as a tangle of thorny vines, which can be wielded as both a weapon and hazardous defense. Furthermore, it is shown that to conduct the Ripple, which makes Hermit Purple it is shown to conduct Ripple, which makes it one of the more effective stands against those weak to such as vampires. One of its special abilities is to use cameras, televisions, and other things to perform a form of fortune telling referred to as spirit photography, when introduced, it demonstrated he had to smash an expensive Polaroid camera to do this, and the camera would disperse a picture. Her Purple Armor is also shown capable. So basically, Purple Armor's not a very it's not necessarily a straight combat-driven stand like some of the other ones are, but still, it's a very effective stand because he can channel the Ripple through it. He's skilled in acrobatics, by the way. Wit and trickery is one of his big things. His famous family technique is the rubber sole, which is basically secrets consists of quickly sneaking or retreating from the opponent while keeping a close eye on surroundings. To the untrained eye, it looks like just simply running away like a coward, augmented by panic and shouting. But in reality, he is actually using to stall time for Joseph to formulate a plan, which he will also use this technique to lure enemies away from him. I was like, what? Okay. And flying. Apparently he's a proficient pilot. Okay. So, in a fight between these guys, who would win? This is a little touch and go here. Spider-Man, I think, has the clear physical advantage in just about every standpoint. In every way. Like, physically speaking, he can lift tens of tons, no problem. Most characters in the JoJo universe are not that strong, even despite their physiques. they're powerful, but they're not tens of tons powerful, save for maybe Dio, but that's a very, throwing a steamroller at someone, Spider-Man can still do that without too much difficulty. There's also the fact that the Ripple, while can guarantee extrasensory abilities, is not akin to the Spider Sense. Like, Spider Sense is something on a completely different level. With that said, though, in terms of true combat experience, knowing how to fight and strategize on the fly, Peter can do that, but Joseph's been doing it probably for longer, and he's fought to the death on several occasions too. Add on the fact he can enhance just anything with the Ripple, so that gives him a more wide range of weaponry than apart from just webbing. There's also the stand to consider. Well, Spider-Man can't see the stand. Only stand users can see other stand users, unless you have some extrasensory ability to see something. His Spider Sense would probably make him aware of the stand. So, even though he can't see it, he could sense it and stay out of its way, roughly. So this really, and Spider-Man can fight from long range a lot more effectively because of his webbings. Now, his webbings can run out, so it would be a matter of Joseph being able to get out of the webbing, which, because he's essentially channeling the sun, in theory, I mean, is it heat he's producing with the Ripple? I cannot remember. Is he actually producing heat with the Ripple, or is it just light and some energy? Let's see here. Energy identical to the sun. So we have to assume that includes the heat level as well. So he'd probably be able to burn through the webbing without too much difficulty. Oh man, that came out of nowhere. Whew. So without too much difficulty. And it also would depend on who the aggressor is. I could see Spider-Man actually being the aggressor in this fight. Not in the way you think. If, say, JoJo's in New York, I see with JoJo. It is JoJo, technically. Let's just call him JoJo for the rest of this. Say JoJo's in New York and he starts fighting maybe a Spider-Man villain. Spider-Man shows up. Spider-Man doesn't know this guy. He's wreaking some havoc unintentionally. And so he's probably like, hey, buddy, I know you're new in town, but you really need to chill out, you know? People don't like it when you're destroying their fruit stands. And look, it wasn't this guy's like, I know, but I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. Yeah, look, I was just trying to help, but I'm just going to leave. Afraid I can't let you do that. You know, yeah, rules are rules. Like, okay, bye, kid. Hey, look, sorry, and they say shit just ties up. It's like, yeah, sorry about that, but I gotta take you in. And he just burns through. Like, is that a fact? And he just traces, go. And Spider senses it. Holy crap! I was like, what the? And you see it embedded in a wall. JoJo comes in. Spider-Man's now dodging to the best of his abilities, which is pretty easy. The biggest problem JoJo's going to have in this fight, and it is the biggest problem he's going to have in this fight, is actually landing a solid blow on Spider-Man. The question is, does he have anything that could surprise Spider-Man and ultimately bypass his Spider Sense? Ripple Overdrive won't be able to do it. The hair Ripple is mostly defensive. I don't recall it being an offensive ability. Could theoretically be. The Ripple Beat is just wall crawling, so he could keep up with Spider-Man. Ripple Beat Overdrive, again, Spider Sense is the problem. And then the Rebuff Overdrive, once again, Spider Sense. The only thing he has on him that would actually, I think, pose a problem for Spider-Man is the Ripple Hypnosis. First off, I couldn't see any evidence to suggest that stronger will, theoretically stronger will, if you are resistant to hypnosis, that should be a factor in here. But Spider-Man really isn't resistant to hypnosis. In fact, I don't think we really see him deal with hypnosis all that much. The closest thing we have is Mysterio, who isn't doing hypnosis, he's doing illusions. Spider-Man, thanks to his Spider Sense, can kind of see through the illusions to a degree. He can't really see him, he can just navigate through them. But that's not hypnosis. If he uses the Ripple on Spider-Man, who is strong-willed, he is strong-willed. Spider-Man, if he doesn't go down from that, is definitely going to be jarred for a little bit and not even going to be able to respond. And then, unfortunately, start taking hits from JoJo, who, using Ripple Overdrive, whatever, is now beating the hell out of Spider-Man, who can take a beating. Spider-Man can take a beating, but he can only take so much. And this guy's strong enough and it can do enough damage, and he's hitting with the power of the sun, technically, that Spider-Man be in trouble. That being said, I think Spider-Man would shake it off, ultimately tie him up again in the webbing. He burns through it only to then get, boom, cracked by Spider-Man. And I think he'd be knocked out if it wasn't for his stand, which would come into play here. Spider-Man, Spider-Man's wondering what the hell that is. I can't see anything, but I can sense something is there. Like, what is this? And it goes back and forth. Spider-Man does not have an answer to this stand, is the problem. JoJo has almost no answer to Spider-Man, but the hypnosis is a problem. But Spider-Man has no, and Spider-Man has answers to most of what JoJo can do, but he has no answer to the stand. There are plenty of other characters in the Marvel Universe who actually are, who are psychic-based, who can use mental energy or energy absorption, whatever you want to call it. Soul Division, say, who could easily take on a stand user. Spider-Man is not one of those characters. And I feel like that stand would, even though the stand's ability doesn't really help in combat because it can channel the ripple, and it's a thing of thorns, it's kind of like him fighting an invisible Doc Ock he can't really do anything against. So weirdly enough, although he's got the strength to take on JoJo out pretty easily, that stand's going to get in the way. And that hypnosis gives him enough of a breather to formulate a new strategy, and I think keep Spider-Man in check. I don't think he couldn't kill. I don't think he'd kill Spider-Man. I don't even think he could. But I think he'd keep him tied up long enough to explain what's going on. Spider-Man's apologizes, and then they finally lets him go. Weirdly enough, even though I'm a Spider-Man fan over a JoJo fan, because I'm not a big JoJo fan, I think Joestar would take this fight. I think that's my thoughts. Again, just comes down to he's tough enough to take hits from Spider-Man. Not many of them, but he's tough enough to take hits. His ripple is dangerous. So Spider-Man's got to keep at a distance for a while in the fight. The webbings he can burn through. He has hypnosis to, at the very minimum, stun Spider-Man. And his stand, because of the design, style, and all that, would be kind of impossible for Spider-Man to deal with. He just doesn't have anything in his tool belt to deal with something like that. So I'd go Joestar. But this is just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.